So as Ashutosh shared, a lot of exciting things have been going on. And I think we are proud of almost everything we have pulled off in our last 4 or 5 years, but there are some things that are sort of bigger than us. And when you get an opportunity to serve in a capacity that you never thought was possible, it's really sort of, we call it fulfillment, but it's really when you're doing something that's above your means, but collectively as a team, you're pulling it off. So the project we have with Department of Defense and Defense Innovation Unit is one of those. And we're actually delighted to share what we are doing there. The gig marketplace is definitely top of mind as a use case, but more importantly, how they are actually, they've always had that vision, and now with the technology being available, they are now ready to pull it off. So we'll take next few minutes, we'll play some of the videos, and then a conversation with Sarah Pearson, who leads the AI/ML efforts for Department of Defense. So with that, Jerry, please roll the first video.
GigEagle is what we think is the solution to all the friction in the talent marketplace.
What is so revolutionary about GigEagle is that for the first time, the Department of Defense will have the ability to identify and then engage members of the Reserve and National Guard across the entire department in real time, and then apply that talent to the department's hardest problems.
GigEagle has the potential to solve bringing talent to a problem.
GigEagle is meant to be a platform that the DoD can use to locate talent that is currently undiscoverable.
Think of Uber, Airbnb. These are types of platforms that take advantage of knowledge or underutilized assets and allows people to endeavor them as gigs.
It opens up a whole new avenue, a whole new set of people that have always been there, but we weren't able to utilize in this way.
Where the core competency comes in this platform is through matching. It's through the AI processing of the skills required for those engagements and the skills at hand with the reservists.
GigEagle brings a tremendous capability for a solution to that problem, which is being able to identify and align talent.
Is there a better way to try to find the talent that we see in other reserves?
Really, GigEagle is probably, in all seriousness, a revolution in talent discovery.
And when people are able to do what they're interested in and what they're capable of, they are able to bring their best and authentic selves to the work.
And when you offer them with specific opportunities that are in line with their capabilities, you actually feel even more rewarding because you're being appreciated for what you are able to do.
GigEagle is a cornerstone of the future of work.
So Sarah Pearson couldn't join us in person, but in the virtual world, we do have a video to play for you. So sit back and enjoy what they're doing, and then we'll talk a little more about how it applies to all of us. So can we go with the next one? Hello everyone, we're very excited to welcome Sarah Pearson to our keynote at Cultivate. Sarah, we saw the video from Defense Innovation Unit, but before we get into GigEagle and DIU, tell us a little bit about yourself because you've had a fantastic and unobvious career.
I like how you put that, unobvious. I know the Valley seems to call it non-traditional. First off, thank you so much for highlighting and showcasing the DoD as it pertains to human capital management. It's a big area. It's an area that we're taking quite seriously as we think about kind of the next 50 years for the department. But yeah, a little bit on my background, non-traditional. Started off with my undergrad from the Naval Academy. So went the Service Academy route, studied economics over there. I then served for 5 years in the Navy. Fun 5 years, couple different ships. I always say the measure of success is that I didn't hit anything, which can be no small feat. But great experience in the Navy, but ultimately was looking for different types of challenges, right? So I jumped out of the Navy. I went to GE, General Electric, and I spent about 4 years over there. range in roles, starting with supply chain management. I was fortunate to start under one of the best leaders I've ever come across. So learned a ton in supply chain, but then dove into program management for large-scale industrial IoT applications, but then spend most of my time in product management and really helping to build out GE's industrial IoT go-to-market and help scale that globally. Like everybody else, right? You itch for a new challenge. So I jumped to Google, stayed product, but focused more so on product support strategy and operations. My product over at Google was Google Assistant. So also saw a pretty big pivot from the B2B world of industrial IoT applications to B2C with Google Assistant and all the nuances and the challenges that brought. So enjoyed some time at Google, but ultimately had this group, the group I work for now, Defense Innovation Unit, reach out while I was over at Google. And they, frankly, the mission was incredibly compelling and something that would offer just the fulfillment that I think each of us seek as we navigate our careers and our lives. So I jumped over to Defense Innovation Unit, where I lead our commercial efforts for artificial intelligence and machine learning. What that means is I have the privilege of spending every day with founders, with awesome companies, with investors, and trying to marry those up with the challenges we see within the Defense Department. And I've been here for about 2 years and I'm loving it.
Incredible. Actually, when I was going through the details, such rich variety and some really iconic organizations that you worked through. Now, clearly, it all makes sense as you share it. But tell us a little more about going from Google to DIU, and clearly, thank you for your service. So you know the environment and why this thing is game changing. But what prompted you to actually go back to Department of Defense?
I think it was the fulfillment piece, honestly. Not implying that Google's not fulfilling work. It most definitely is. I think for me, that decision at the age of 18 to go to a service academy, I've always had this very patriotic vein to give back in some way. However, that kind of altruistic, attitude personifies itself. But for me, it was the fulfillment and frankly, the recognition that category leading technology wasn't being adopted by the Defense Department. And how do we really set it up for, like I said, 50, 100 years of success to come. And so I think it was that appreciation for how complex it can be to build and scale AI products and knowing, how helping to lead the Defense Department in how we adopt those technologies. So it's really the fulfillment piece. And I also, of course, have to plug the people. I've been incredibly fortunate. The leadership we have at DIU under Mike Brown and others, it is top notch. We have industry leading thinkers and leaders that are focusing their efforts on national security. And that's been pretty awesome to see.
Love hearing your journey, Sarah. And I'll come back to your personal involvement here in leadership as well. Okay, now let's talk about defense innovation and GigEagle. What are you looking to solve here?
In its simplest form, we are creating a gig economy for the Defense Department. So this was really a vision that took quite a few years, but is here today again because of people, right? Whether those were boundary pushing leaders in Congress or within the Defense Department, or the availability of commercial tech like Eightfolds, or the leadership we have leading the project today. We wouldn't be here without all these things. But like I said, it's a gig economy. And what we're trying to unite in this gig economy are part-time military members, which we call reservists, with short-term needs inside the DoD. An example I love to share is, if we have somebody that is a Marine reservist and they happen to be a partner or a principal at a tier 1 VC, I would certainly appreciate their help on my team as we diligence hundreds of companies any given month. So, how can we connect those skills and expertise that military members are gaining in their private sector roles for the benefit of both them and for the DoD? So that's what we're looking to solve with GigEagle.
And from what I understand, having now being part of this journey with you all, that the concept is not new, But this time there seems to be a lot of conviction that this thing will come together very nicely, both in terms of the timing, the readiness. So what's different this time from your perspective?
Combination of technology, of funding, of the need to change, and again, boundary pushing people. That's been my biggest surprise in this role over 2 years is the willingness to take on challenges that may fail. Failure is still a potential. It is with any product, we all know, right? Certainly your journey scaling Eightfold, right? There's always failure around the corner. So what's different now? I would say availability of technology. The AI piece is crucial when you're thinking about millions of users just for a pilot, for a prototype effort. And then imagine scaling across a force that has tens of millions. You can't do that without AI. So I think maturity of technology, again, coupled with people willing to push boundaries. And what should not be understated is kind of the risk that the user groups are taking on too. So we have numerous branches across the DoD that are participating, and those are calls from either sponsorship level leaders all the way down to the folks rolling up their sleeves and getting it done. And they're all just leaning in. So it's this perfect nexus.
Excellent. Now I want to go back to what did you learn at each of your steps at Navy, at GE, at Google that set you up for playing this critical leadership role here?
So I'm going to say something that may be controversial. The construct that everybody has a mentor has never resonated with me. Instead, so in the absence of, 1-2 mentors that kind of guide you, I have always been the type that have learned little lessons, good and bad, at each of the steps, right? And I catalog those in a very nerdy way in many notebooks behind my shoulder here. But if I were to summarize, 5 years in the Navy, that was day one. I was 22 years old and dropped on a ship and given a 25-person department and told to figure it out. There is really no better way to fine-tune your leadership, your management skills, and learning and failing quite a few times on the job. So I'd say the Navy was a global organization that I could learn best practices from. And that's certainly what I took away. Again, phenomenal leaders, kind of each of those steps that I was able to take little nuggets, tidbits from. Building product, though, is probably what I really cut my teeth on the most at GE, and understanding that when something works digitally, it doesn't mean it's going to work when you get out in the field and you try to offboard time series data from a locomotive in a consistent, high quality manner. Like that predictive maintenance at that point was really falling flat in so many ways. So lots of challenges that were helpful to learn from a product management perspective. I think Google, that just opened my eyes to so much. I recall during Google onboarding, first few days at the company, and they bring everybody together and go through lots of awesome stuff. But one gentleman stood up and he said, I was born and raised in rural Pakistan, and my father was the only one who had any technology. He had a cell phone, kind of a traditional early 2000s cell phone, let's say. And that was this person's only interaction until he went to university with technology, and he majored in computer science. And then here he was. I think he was maybe just kicking off his career at Google, and just that appreciation that our lives are being shaped by the technologies you all are building and the technologies that I'm focused on introducing and scaling within the department. And that's a great responsibility, and we should just never take that lightly.
So let's get to the AI ML part of your responsibilities. What we have seen at Eightfold is the interest in AI changed dramatically in the last couple of years. 4 years ago, a lot of worrisome circumspection, all of that. And now in the last 2 years, a lot of interest and a lot of desire to actually, how do we leverage this thing? How do we mitigate risk? All of that. What are you seeing in your 2 years at Department of Defense? It's one of the largest organizations, largest employer in the country. How's AI being received now?
I would say it depends on the use case, the application. Areas like human capital management or supply chain, folks are leaning in. They're all in. because they appreciate the advantage that is offered by adopting and successfully operationalizing these technologies. But I think there's also other areas where we're still hesitant, right? We still need to understand. One of those areas potentially is around the explainability of AI. If you are going to integrate AI into some really critical systems, we need to have a very strong understanding of kind of inputs and outputs and the why for those models. So I think it depends. With human capital, with this piece, right? How do we help service members or any employee of the Defense Department? How do we retain same metrics, same challenges that everyone's faced in the private sector as well? How do we retain amazing talent? How do we recruit new talent? But how do we make it fulfilling for both sides, right? That's something obviously everybody thinks about nonstop. And I think just the recognition that no one human can understand a candidate's or employee's background and strengths. No, you need a bit of NLP, you need some models, like you need AI to solve that at scale. And frankly, I think it delivers higher quality results. So yeah, adoption for sure. And it's been great to see the DoD leaning in areas that I haven't even seen enterprises. So for once, we can almost say that we're early adopters of some of these technologies, especially at scale.
I think you definitely are, because the interest that we are seeing over the last 6-9 months as we work very closely has been nothing short of how to make it work, right? The mindset is more about how to make it work and how to roll it out, how to drive adoption versus will it ever work. So I'm definitely seeing that conviction. I think it's no part to the role that you're playing there. So I think one of the toughest jobs you have is being at the tip of the spear for all the service lines and getting them all aligned and motivated to actually lean in to this effort. How's that journey been? Because we see the same thing, that now it's less concern about the underlying technology, more about change management and getting people to get past their orthodoxies. So what has that been for you?
It hasn't been met without challenge. Again, we've got phenomenal leadership in the program manager leading everything. But here's what I'll offer. It's been nuanced in terms of what each of the service branches need. If you think about on the smaller end, the U.S. Marine Corps, I believe, has 180,000 active duty members. That's larger than most corporations, right? Most companies. So, and then on the large end, we have hundreds of thousands, millions, perhaps actually in one of them. So each brings its own challenges. I'll say though that the approach in terms of change management can by and large be applied across each of those. And that's what the team's been doing. This is not, as you've said, this is not a technology hurdle, right? The platform will launch here soon, which we're all very excited about. This is an adoption challenge, not just on the side of those military reservists, the part-time military members who, frankly, I anticipate not being as large of a hurdle as the hiring manager equivalent, right? Whether those are civilians within the Defense Department, they're people like me that are contractors, or they're active duty service members, the people that will be posting these short-term gigs, that concept that we can solve a big challenge in a short period of time, in some cases as short as 4 hours, that is a shift. It's a paradigm shift for the Defense Department that I think will take some time for us to navigate. And ultimately we'll succeed as we put points on the board, right? That the better we are able to match the skills and the expertise on the supply side of the equation, the military reservists, with thought-provoking, challenging, and rewarding gigs on the demand side, then we'll really start to gain momentum. But I think the first few months, it'll be challenging because of that demand side. In terms of success, what can this look like? I mean, starting with military reservists, which are around 1.2 million in terms of user base, and then scaling across each of the branches, it is the metric, frankly, right? How do we take this technology, start with short-term gigs, which is no different than bringing somebody into a new role for 2 years, 3 years, or whatever a typical billet or job duration is for that branch of service or at that agency. So that's the vision in terms of the long-term piece. And I think there's another piece there too of gaining a better understanding of the skills we have within the Defense Department. That's been, as maybe everybody can assume, it's been historically a heavy paperwork activity of writing performance reviews, saving those as PDFs, archiving those away, not to be revisited maybe ever until a service member chooses to leave the armed forces. And then maybe they're asking and trying to collect all those performance reviews to land a cool job somewhere like Eightfold when they get out. So I think that shift of understanding really what we have within the DoD and empowering service members to navigate their career in a way that aligns to their own aspirations and their own growth, areas. That shift is huge if we're able to really capture that and hit that potential.
I really like the last bit that you shared, because one is, of course, when leaders lean in, great things happen at a fast pace. Second part is we're hearing this thing more and more, that all good organizations and leaders are all about empowering individuals. It's not about entitlement, it's really about enabling them to own their careers, their aspirations, and feeling like you don't need to go outside to have that fulfilling journey. Any parting thoughts for us? When should we touch back in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months to see how you're doing?
I would say 3 to 6 months. We're going to launch the platform here in Q2. Again, the team's excited and marching towards that. Hopefully by kind of late Q3, maybe early Q4, we've begun to generate a bit of that momentum. Again, creating that marketplace where both sides are coming to the table and offering kind of what they have. The change management piece, that's our biggest challenge right now. So, we'll have to kind of keep the foot on the pedal and just be managing that as we go. But yeah, thank you again for hosting us. It was great to connect on the GigEagle platform and our partnership with Eightfold, and we look forward to seeing what we're able to build together.
Thank you, Sarah. Good luck, and looking forward to next steps. And there's more. 3 of the team members, Scott, who's leading the project, CJ, Chris, you all here? Can you stand up? Actually, they're the ones who deserve the round of applause. CJ in the back. Space Force, Air Force. Is this fun? Yes. All right, so let me bring a member, former veteran Bill, please join us. So Bill Pelser, you all know him as a partner with Josh Pearson and former Deloitte partner.
Correct.
Long distinguished career. What I didn't realize was you actually served for Air Force.
I did.
So when you see Gig Marketplace and what Department of Defense is doing, what comes to mind for you?
So I have to tell you, I am so excited to hear about GigEagle. When we were having dinner a couple of weeks ago and you said, Bill, let me tell you about this project, I nearly fell out of my seat. Here's the headline that
It wasn't the wine?
Well, that was private, Sarah, but the wine was really good. Here's the headline that was rushing through my head. For the first time, we're going to be able to unlock the talent that's hidden on our balance sheet today. It's nothing new. These people are there. They're already employed. They have contracts. There's just a whole dimension about their background that is not visible to an organization. In this case, the DoD, but also to every company out there.
I think the thing that you talked about, the unlocking what's already on your balance sheet, because that's one of the things that immediately you had commented that evening. This applies to every large organization that has a large ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And thing that I really loved, Sarah, and of course she's also a machine learning expert, is AI is the only way to do this thing at scale. Are you seeing that from your experience? Because all of them come to you for advice.
So this idea of unlocking talent that is buried on your balance sheet today is not a new idea. That idea has been out there for a long time. We've written about it. The trouble was, it was nearly impossible to do it manually. There were no systems. As many things as you tried to tag, and by the way, I spent 20 years implementing Oracle, SAP, Workday, and every kind of LMS, LXP system around the world. endless hours about skill tagging, taxonomies, how can we make this work, who's going to maintain it, is it really relevant, is people going to use it, how do we do the reporting, how do I ask the question, how do I do a query? It falls apart under its own weight. So until you have something like AI that can go in there and help you make sense of it, you're stuck. And so when I see the DoD taking the lead on this, it is absolutely fantastic.
Other thing I enjoyed listening to Sarah was, and this is actually coming up more and more, 4 or 5 years ago when we started talking about the AI platform, most of it was quizzical looks on people's faces. Now when we talk to Josh, he's not only gone to the data side, he says, what I like about what I'm seeing from you is the time series data of the career progression across these multiple industries. That's what she's also talking about. Same concept from locomotives now about all of us. So that's essentially what ahead for us. Do take the time to meet the team members from DIU. They're actually in Mountain View, several of them. So it's just amazing to, again, get to serve them in scale. Thank you, Bill. And Francis, back to you.